It's time to navigate through life's kindness, common sense, and a little help from your friends. It's time for Talkin' Shit, the Unsolicited podcast with host Jessica Lee Levin, author, speaker, entrepreneur, and purveyor of kindness.
Hi, this is Jessica Lee Levin, and we are talking shit on the Unsolicited podcast. And I am here with Jeff Tippett today. Welcome.
Hello, welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you. We just connected through LinkedIn, and it seems like we have a lot of colleagues in common, and it seems like you have a great story to talk to us about.
I love it when we meet people online and we find mutual friends that are out there as well, and colleagues. It makes the world feel even smaller to me. Like it's like so much easier to get connected to more and more people. So thanks for taking my LinkedIn message and inviting me to be a guest on your podcast today.
Yeah, when I got your message, it was really interesting and timely because you are an expert in persuasive communication. And we live in this world where it seems like everyone is trying to convince the other side that they are correct. And it seems like people are just shouting at each other and no one is actually convincing anybody of anything.
It does seem like a big part of our public discourse today, where we are like just promoting ourselves and getting our message out there. And when people ask me what I do and I tell them I speak professionally, typically the next thing they say is, well, what do you speak about? And I say, I speak on persuasive communication, just like you just said. And almost without exception, the next thing they come back to me is that, oh, Jeff, so you teach people how to manipulate others. And I understand why people might think persuasion and manipulation are the same thing, but they are worlds apart and galaxies apart. And they're so different, but sometimes we do think of them as the same.
Why do you think that is?
Well, we've had a lot of training when people tell us things are persuasion, but actually it's really manipulation. And I break it down this way. The word manipulate means to control something or to control another person, to do it cleverly, to do it unfairly. Words like exploit. So what happens in manipulation is we have something we want and we need participation from the other party, the other person. And without regard to the other person and what they may want and what outcomes they may be seeking, we impose our will on them simply for the benefit of us and benefiting ourselves. And if a person happens to be in sales, that might work one time, but what ends up happening is, we know that customer acquisition is one of the largest costs that a company has. And when we manipulate people into moving what we want them to do, it's often a one-off deal. And oftentimes we can hurt and damage the relationship when we manipulate. Persuasion, on the other side, it looks like this. It's to cause someone to do something, but through reasoning or argument. Now, the word argument here is back to the purest sense of the word. This isn't what we see today in America on Thanksgiving when we talk about religion and politics. It's not the screaming. And argument is when we share like what we think and what we want, and the other person shares her perspective or his perspective. And what happens is, over time of sharing back and forth, we come to terms to the same place. Through sustained effort, we come to the same place. And what's happening here is we're not forcing ourselves on someone else. We're not making them do something else. In fact, there are two magic words I look for after a conversation to know if I manipulated or I persuaded. And those two words are, that's right. So when they get to the end of it and a person looks back at me and says, hey, yeah, Jeff, that's right. We really should do that. What has happened at that point is the things that I've talked about, they own it for themselves. They see the value for themselves and they want to move forward. They're just as excited to move forward as I am. And that gives us confidence that we've persuaded people and we've heard that we've listened to them. We've got buy-in. We found a common place and we've moved forward without ever manipulating others.
So that's a very interesting point because, well, first of all, you said, you're talking about Thanksgiving and people, arguing about religion and politics. And unfortunately, that has moved well beyond turkey dinner. And it seems like that is happening every single day of the week.
Every day.
And even more so, you're not seeing people say you're right. Even if somebody believes it, people just can't see, and this is my own observation, they just can't seem to say you're right. What do you think that is?
Yeah, so we have like come to the point now that we almost demonize other people for what they view, and we make it all into this singular unit instead of giving people a little bit of space, right? I'm in a relationship. I'm getting ready to get married. My partner and I have this area where we're very similar and we overlap, but we have a huge part of our life that's so different. I'm a morning person. My partner is a night person. I'm organized and methodical. My partner is more fly by your seat of your pants type of person. But what I found was, like, I didn't need to make my partner to be me. I wanted to be me, and I wanted to just enjoy being me, and I don't want to change my partner. But oftentimes what's missing is our willingness to listen to others without forming judgments about them and being okay if they differ. So we may have different perspectives. That's okay. You're not a bad person. You're not a horrible person. We can disagree. Okay, so what? I still care about you, right? But when we get to that level where we can have that conversation and we can accept them for who they and not try to make them what we think they should be.
Do you think there's a point, and this is totally a personal opinion, do you think there's a point, this is something I've been thinking a lot about, and I've actually started writing a blog post about it, so I'm glad we're talking about it now, where you have differing opinions so much, you just decide, you know what, I want people in my life who are like-minded. If you're related to them, you can't always help it, but when you get to choose the people who are in your life, when you have people who just have views that are so different from who you are and what you value, and so there's this one side of thought that says, you know what, you should just accept people who have different beliefs, which has been sort of ingrained in us, right? We're told that, it makes sense. But I've been thinking about it lately and saying, there's some people who we're just so different and their values are so different from mine. Why? What is the value other than having somebody else's perspective? What is the value in really having a relationship with them? Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So I would say that I probably don't have any two people that I agree totally with everything on every single point with them. There are going to be so many differences in the viewpoints. Now, having said that, I think what I'm hearing from you is maybe like this bigger picture of our life view and how we view life and what we want. So, for example, I'm an extremely positive person. I like to think in a positive manner. I like to have a positive mindset. Sure, tough things hit me. That's fine. They can just float off, and I can keep moving forward. And when hard things come, I can work my way through it. And if I get discouraged, I get the next morning. Things are better. Now, having said that, if I'm with someone who is like an energy zapper and is like just zapping everything out of me, I can make choices. Like that's probably not where I want to hang out. At the same time, though, that doesn't mean I have to put the person down or speak poorly of them or have ill feelings. I can just make decision that's probably not the best alignment for me. You're a great person and what you do is wonderful for you. But for me, this is kind of where I need to align. So I think it's an and. Maybe it's not an or. Maybe it's an and we realize in our friendships, in our relationships, yeah, we want people that for the most part, our worldview are aligned. If they differ in particular areas, let's listen and let's be okay with that. But if someone is like so far off, let them do it. They don't have to be part of our inner circle. And we don't have to speak poorly of them. We can still say, hey, great, go for it. Enjoy your life. Positive to you.
Yeah, right. I appreciate your viewpoint on that. And I'm glad that you talked about being a positive person, because part of what this podcast is about talking to people who share that positive outlook on life and have that energy so that other people can understand how to embrace it, how to channel it. And I know you have a pretty interesting story about how you got to where you are in your career, and it relates very much to your personal life. Do you want to share that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I ended up, without any preparation, adopting a baby from Haiti. I never had a dream of adopting a child. That was never part. I never even thought about it. I didn't really, honestly, didn't know much about Haiti. My father went over to do some humanitarian relief. And while he was over in Haiti, his translator was a ninth grade girl who was in an English speaking American Christian school. And she got pregnant. And this Christian school gave her a choice: give up your baby or drop out of school. And completing her education was one of the most important things that a Haitian could do to make sure that she could advance herself and take care of herself. So she made the gut-wrenching decision to give up her baby. When my father came back and showed me the pictures from his trip, I looked at this baby and I looked in her eyes, and for some reason, I just knew internally that that was my next step, that I was supposed to take this next step with her. So I started immediately, had no idea what I was doing. Started immediately, within 30 days, I was over in Haiti for my first trip. I got started the home work here in the U.S. side. I found a Haitian attorney. I flew over, got a lot of paperwork taken care of. I met her for the first time. I took her clothes. I took her family some money. Took some medicines over to help take care of her. And, you know, I wish I could say it just like was smooth as silk. It wasn't. I faced obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. And honestly, one of the biggest obstacles that I faced was myself and what was happening inside of me. I was amazing at to-do lists. I could take a to-do list and I could get it done like no one else could get it done. But when I got to Haiti and I started talking with people there, what I learned about myself was that, like our definition earlier, I counted on manipulation to get things done more than I did persuasion. To the point, and sometimes I would even damage relationships with other people to make sure I got done what I wanted to get done. But Haiti, that was a total different experience. I could no longer could manipulate. I remember at one point, so when I was doing the adoption, Aristide's government was collapsing. There was civil unrest. It was the first time in my life I had guns pointed at my head, had machetes held at my neck. I mean, imagine what you would do if you got forced out of a city because of violence and riots that were going on and you left for your own safety. But I had this one point when the government was shut down. There was an office and I needed someone to sign a piece of paper for me, and they weren't showing up. And my attorney from Haiti emailed me and said, Jeff, at best your adoption's on hold, but at worst, I think this may be over. We may not be able to complete this adoption. And I was heartbroken, honestly, and I decided I was just going to fly over. So I go over and I stay with my attorney, and every day I get up and I walk to this office and I sit outside. I sat outside, and at the end of the day, I would go back to my attorney's home disappointed. And I did that every day for about 2 weeks until finally one day someone popped into that office. And I remember just like it was yesterday, coming in the office and me, like I pumped up, like I finally can tell this story, and I've got my translator with me, and we're there, and I'm like, and I go off how I want to adopt this baby and how I want to do this for her, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. I got this whole thing, and he just glazed over. No response whatsoever. And I knew it wasn't working. My method of communication, which was manipulation, wasn't working. So drawing on what I knew about the Haitian people, they love their children. Their children are like jewels to them. Their children are precious to them. So I turned the story around and I told her from her perspective of how she had been removed from her biological mother, how she was living now in an orphanage, and how she was sick, and how she needed medical attention, and that I could provide it for her in the U.S. And I wanted to provide an education for her, and I wanted her to be loved and to be cared for, and that I would do that. And instantaneously, he turned around, signed the document. 10 minutes, I was out of there.
Wow. Wow. So all you did was you changed it from your perspective to theirs.
Exactly. And I spoke to what mattered to him and what he valued and what was important to him. And that was the only way to move forward. There was nothing else I could do. I mean, I couldn't twist arms. I couldn't make anything happen. But I had to take it away from like me, and using the word I, to what I knew that he valued as a person. And there were lots of these ups and downs, and there were times that things would just fall apart. I throw my hands up and I would just say, I quit, I give up, I can't make this happen. And I would, get a good night's sleep. I'd wake up the next morning, the sun comes up, and it's like everything is brand new all over again. And I'm like, all right, I'm fired up again. Let's go do this. Let's make this thing happen.
So what clicked for you?
I think it was the failure of it not working. I think it was self-reflection, as well as to being honest with myself about where my heart was, what my motives were. And I faced like lots of this questioning from the very beginning. I mean, here I am, this white guy going over to adopt a baby of African descent. I mean, do I have a savior complex? Like, what is happening with me in all this as well? And am I trying to fulfill something in myself? Or do I look at this little girl and I give up of myself, of my time, of my money, of my resources to make sure that she's loved, that she's cared for, that so she can have the best opportunities in life?
Wow. And how long ago was this?
So that was 14 years. She's now 15. She is a sophomore. She has her driver's permit. I was so proud of her this summer. She sat at the table with her computer, her laptop, filling out online applications. She was able to find a summer job that is in the part-time in the fall as well. And just happiest person ever. And I remember she was probably like in the 3.5, maybe 4 years old. She was sitting on the floor one day and she was playing with all these little toys and stuff. And she was putting them into groups. And I looked at her, and her name is Nina. I was like, Nina, what are you doing? And she said, Daddy, I'm making families. And she said, Daddy, they don't match, but they're still family. Just like I don't match, but I'm still family. And at that point, as a young kid, I knew that she got it, that it didn't matter that her skin color was darker than mine, or mine was lighter than hers. What matters is that she was in our home and she was family and she was one just like my biological kids are. At that moment, I was like, you're going to be fine. You got this. You understand how valuable you are.
Wow. That covers so many areas of what humanity is about. Your journey to convince somebody, and then the lessons that she ended up teaching you, probably in ways that you never imagined.
I didn't see any of this happening. I didn't predict how bad this was going to be. I didn't know about Haiti. I didn't know what the government was falling apart. I didn't know how bad it was going to be, just dealing with cultural differences, dealing with language differences, dealing with their government, dealing with our government. And even for me, at the very end, once the adoption was completed, the U.S. portion was finished, the Haitian portion was finished. I had the paperwork. I have her in my arms. I go to get her visa from the U.S. Embassy to go out, and they denied her visa. She's sick, she's malnourished, she's in really bad shape, and they flagged her for a DNA test at the very end. And so we called back to the States, and the person that was one of my senators at the time worked with the embassy, got it all solved. I called the embassy a couple of hours later, and they said, hey, be here first thing in the morning, bring this paper, we're going to get it signed, we're going to get you out of here. And so I got it signed, and I went straight to the airport. I didn't even have a flight. I just went straight to the airport and booked a flight from the airport to get out and to get her here to the States.
And 15 years later, you are telling the story about it, and you're really helping people understand so many different things about communication and really about perception.
That's one of the things that I love about what I do. Like when I'm on stage speaking, to see light bulbs go off for people, and for them to understand, like, how do they craft a message? How do they put their focus on other people? How do they make this emotional connection with people that they're working with? How do they set themselves up as an expert in their space? How do they position their message to move things forward? And when these light bulbs start going off for people, and I realize these are things that actually change lives, it's what gets me up the next morning. I recently spoke for a nurses group, and a big part of what I was talking about was a bedside manner and how we relate to other people, which is a huge part of the nursing. But one of the nurses afterward from a major hospital came to me, and as I was waiting for the valet to bring my car, and she said, Jeff, I was listening to you with 2 ears today. I just kind of chuckled. I'm like, well, of course you listened to me 2 years. What do you mean 2 years? You got 2 years. She's like, no, Jeff, this is what I mean. One is a nurse and working with the nurses in the hospital and what I have to do to lead them. I learned a lot today to help me with them. But the second ear was, she said, Jeff, I'm a musician and I am about to release my first CD. And the stuff that you talked about has helped me understand how to message myself, how to message my CD. And then she told me the story of being a single mom. And I'm looking at her thinking, oh my gosh, you're this emerging entrepreneur right here. And you're going to take this information, you're going to do a great job with your CD, you're going to create financial resources to help take care of you and to help take care of your daughter and live out what you love to do and what you're passionate to do. That makes it worth it. It gets me excited to be on the stage.
What advice would you give to people? If you had one piece of unsolicited advice, with everything you've learned about the world, about perceptions, whether it's a lesson that you learned from your daughter, or if it's a lesson that you learned from having to convince somebody of anything, if you had one single piece of unsolicited advice that you could share, what would it be and why?
Here's what I would share. I would pick up with my Haitian story of landing here in the US in Miami and getting through the airport and standing there in the corridor and being thrilled, being excited that I finished it and that she was actually finally on US soil. And looking at her, at that point, I'm holding her like this. She's whimpering. She had double ear infection. The cabin pressure was killing her ears. She's whimpering, and I look down at her feeling accomplished. And then all of that just goes out the window. And I start looking at her, and I start wondering, what is her life going to be? Will she be a doctor and heal people? Will she be a teacher and impact hundreds of students that then could impact thousands of lives? Would she be a humanitarian and relieve suffering? Would she go back to Haiti? Would she be a nurse? And while I couldn't answer any of those questions at that moment, here's what I did know looking down at her, that the adoption wasn't over. My work wasn't finished. Actually, this is like tossing a pebble. I'm sure you've tossed a pebble in a lake or something before, right? You pop it in and there is that immediate, right? And that's the adoption. The immediate was there, the adoption. But then there's this ripple effect and it keeps going and it keeps going and it keeps going. Sometimes in life, we just get so burdened down with the daily work that we have to do of emails and phone calls, caring for kids, caring for our spouse, talking to neighbors, like all the stuff that we have to do to make sure that life is together. And I think it's a value it's sometimes just to pause and to pick our heads up and realize that just like my adoption, the things that we do in our life, if we're focused on others and helping others, that they can, just like these ripples of the water, that it will continue to go well beyond us. And the good that's going to happen from my adoption of this baby will well exceed my lifetime. This is going to be good things that's going to happen to people that I will never even know about. If she teaches and impacts kids, it impacts other people, that impacts their children, I'm never even going to know these people. But just to remind ourselves that what we're doing in the big picture, when we're caring for other people, it matters. And it matters bigger than ourselves and even what we can even hope life could bring to us. It's much bigger.
Well, I don't know if you're trying to be persuasive or you just are because of your positivity, but it certainly comes through your passion for your daughter and your passion for doing this is pretty tremendous. Now, you do have a book coming out on this topic.
Yes, I'm so excited. I'm so close to the end of everything, so I'm like ready to cheer. I'm going to be out January 1st. The book is called Unleashing Your Superpower: Why Persuasive Communication is the Only Force You'll Ever Need. And my big bold statement in the book is that we all live or die based upon our ability to persuade others. And I outline that and make that argument within the book.
So your superpower is persuasion?
I talk a little bit in the book about, like, as a kid, like I always wondered as a kid, like what my superpower would be. And sometimes I think I want to be Batman. And then I see Superman. I think, gosh, I should be Superman, or, Wonder Twins. There could be two of them. So I never really as a kid settled on what my superpower would be. It was only as an adult when I looked at everything out there. So if I could pick any one superpower, what would it be? It would be persuasive communication.
My superpower is making wine disappear.
Woo! Then I want to come to your house.
Well, you are welcome anytime. I appreciate you spending some time with me. if people want to learn more about you, the best place to find you would be where?
They're welcome to check out my website, jefftippett.com, JEFFTIPPETT.com. And if you get anywhere close, I got a lot of misspellings out there in Google Ads, so I'm sure my ad will pop up if you get close. But you go to the website, you can learn more about me. You can sign up for my newsletter and get updates as I share weekly content.
All right. Well, thank you, Jeff, for talking on the Unsolicited podcast.
Thanks for listening to Talkin' Shit, the Unsolicited podcast. Remember, everyone has shit. Be a good human.